All right, good evening, everybody. Today is April 1st, 2025, and this is the Fort Worth Astronomical Society Astrophotography Special Interest Group meeting for April. Today we are going to be talking about our telescope rigs and the equipment we are using to run those rigs. And we've got a number of speakers lined up uh, uh, to talk about that. And before I do, I want to remind everybody that next month in May, we're going to have a well-known YouTuber, Mr. Peter Zelinka, give a presentation on PixInsight. He asked that we do a survey so that he would understand a little bit about the depth of knowledge of our members. But he assures me that the presentation can be used for everybody from beginners all the way through to people who are fairly proficient.
And
So,
if he knows how to spell it, that's my level. How do you spell it? No, 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 no.
spell
I've
that.
just gotten into it and my brain hurts.
All right. Well, yeah, you and everyone else on the planet who uses it. Anyway, so he'll be giving a presentation in May. Also, good news, Dylan O'Donnell, another famous YouTuber, he says that when he gets through recovering from, I don't know, a cyclone or something that hit Australia, it might be a couple of months, but he gave me a positive response that he will speak in the future. We'll just have to, he asked me to give him a couple of months to allow him to sort some things out. If you haven't seen any of Dylan O'Donnell's videos, they're frequently very funny, humorous, and he's also very, he's got a rich background in astrophotography, so I'm sure he'll be, if nothing else, very entertaining. Um, and so I'm still working on Quiv, the lazy geek. He's hard to get a hold of, but I'm one of his uh, Patreon supporters. So I think we'll hear back from him, and hopefully in the positive, that'll be coming soon. But next month, Peter Zelinka, and in the future, Dylan O'Donnell. And then you've got the talented people in the Fort Worth Astronomical Society APSIG group as well. Our mission here is to help new people, people with intermediate skills, all the way up to those who are fairly proficient, to learn new tips and tricks and to help each other in this hobby we've grown to love so much. So, with that in mind, we're going to begin our first presentation. And thank you so much, Glenn Fraser, for being the first to volunteer to talk about your rig and the pros and cons of the equipment that you are currently using and used in the past, and stuff that you are looking to get or acquire in the future. And with that, I'll let you take it away, Glenn.
All right. I hope everybody can hear me. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I put together a little keynote presentation, if Zoom works. There we go.
There you go.
All right. So, for those of you who don't know, I refer to my observatory in the backyard as the Scope Hut. That name was crowdsourced here within the Astronomical Society, and it kind of stuck. I liked it. But I wanted to start tonight by saying this is what covers up the scope and allows it to live outside all the time. It's made primarily of cedar fence planks with a 2x4 frame, and then it is waterproof with Tyvek on the inside, and also has insulation to keep it a little bit cooler than the 100-degree summer temperatures. It went through the summer quite well last year. So overall, it has been a good place to store everything. and keep everything ready to go each night. It's got PVC roofing on it that's on top of plywood, so I did not have any problems with the roof or my all-sky camera during the hailstorm. However, the protection I had over the garage door opener, which you can see underneath the black trash bag right now, it was destroyed with the hail 2 weeks ago, and consequently, my garage door opener is no longer working. So I have a manual roof again, unfortunately, but I will be replacing that. But I've decided to wait till storm season's over. No use putting a garage door opener and having to replace it again in 2 months after another hailstorm comes by. So I'll just go outside and push the roof off. Um, the cons of this is I'm ready to image or pros of this, I'm ready to image every night. The cons are that I have to go outside and do it right now. It is also not perfectly airtight, so I get dust and pollen build up. But I've remedied most of the problems by having a flip flat cover so that it closes itself off every night. I also have, you see a second pier there that is temporarily in the ground. It's actually a concrete pier poured in a 5-gallon bucket. So I was using it on the driveway out front during planetary to catch some of the early evening western planets. But then I decided, you know what, I'll just dig a little 6-inch hole and bury it in there and use it as my second pier for evenings when I use two scopes. So that's what you see there. But anyway, that's the beginnings of the scope hut. If you look inside it, you'll find that it has a custom concrete pier made out of these landscape concrete blocks. They're approximately 7.25 inches tall, and around that same width. Um, They are buried in the ground, 1.5 of those blocks. I dug as far down as I could till I hit a giant stone, uh, probably bedrock here at the area not far from the lake I live next to. So I drilled a hole in the center of that rock about 3 inches. I set a all thread down in it with Loctite adhesive, the PL 3 or 5, whatever the high strength stuff is. And then I ran that all thread all the way through all of these, cementing each one of these together with that same Loctite adhesive. And then I filled the hole in with concrete. That has been good for about 9 months now. It has not moved, have not had to re-level it. This is a custom pier mount that I made with some 6-inch steel plate that I drilled myself. So all of this is custom. Clearly, you can see I miscalculated the height of my pier, and I had to lower the bird cage as far down as it would go, just so my roof would roll over top of my new big scope that I didn't realize I was going to be buying whenever I built the pier. So my pier is just a little bit too tall, or my roof is too short. You figure. Whenever I have to rebuild the scope hut, I'll build it a little bit taller, and I can get a little bit more room out of my pier there. But that's what the pier looks like inside. Currently sitting on it. And by the way, the the pros I think of this method is it cost me a grand total of about $30 to build this pier. Most of the time, if you get a steel pier or you go with a tripod, anything that is better than the carbon fiber that comes with the AM5, you're looking at spending several $100s. I did not want to put a concrete floor because I didn't want the heat radiating up. So all I have is on top of this gravel floor is exercise mats, the square tiles that you link together to put in a studio for like exercise flooring. So I have that down on top of this custom cut. You can see some of it in the lower section of the picture on the right. This has worked well for me, and that all supports my main rig, which is centered upon the most important part of it, the AM5N. I have the 200 millimeter pier extension that allows me to mount to the custom pier plate that I built. And on top of that, I have a ASCAR FRA 500. That's a 90 millimeter 500 focal length. I think it's f5.6. And that is a Petzval design, so I don't worry about back focus or anything, which has allowed me to put a few extra pieces together that are a little difficult if you're having to fit into 55 millimeters. What I mean by that is I start out with a 2600 Pro, the 36 millimeter filter wheel with a full complement of ZWO. I bought it as a kit, so it's got LRGBs from ZWO, and then I have Optolong narrow bands for it. But in front of that, I have the ZWO, the newest off-axis guider, their L. Um, they say it doesn't stand for large, but it has a larger prism, so you have a better view of the sky. So I call it the large OAG. In that, I have a 220 mm. So far, I have not had a problem finding guide stars at all. And at only 500 millimeters of focal length, I don't expect to have that problem. But included with this rig is a EAF focuser, the new 5-volt version. And then I also have the best one that I could find was the Wanderer Astro Rotator Mini. This is the V2. It is only 10 millimeters thick, so it would have almost fit within the full 55 millimeters if I needed to stick with that. With the 21, I think it is, millimeters of the filter wheel. The off-axis guider is about another 20 something. And then the 10 from the rotator added to the, I believe it is 12.5. You can get the 2600 down to if you pull everything off the front of it and bolt it all together. But like I said, with the Petzval design scope, I don't have any problems. I love the rotator, being able to frame up everything I want now without any problems. Have not had any problems with it. I know some people stay away from rotators. You'll have problems. I have not. I have it limited to 180 degrees of travel, so I can avoid collisions. And like I said, just haven't had any trouble with it. All of that is being driven with a Pegasus Ultimate Power Box V3. You can see that mounted here on the side of the scope. The one thing I love about this ASCAR scope are the rings. They have mounting on all four sides. So there are M6 mount holes on all four sides of this. So not just where it rides on the dovetail, but on both the left side and the top and the right side. So you can attach anything and everything you want to this scope. I really like those rings. On the front, you'll see a Deep Sky Dad flip flat panel. This has allowed me to keep the optics much cleaner now since it closes off every night and I don't have to worry about pollen getting into it. In this picture, this is when I was running a tandem setup. This has an ASCAR FMA 135 scope on top of it with its own camera, filter wheel, and EAW. And that allowed me to shoot a target, but then get a perspective on that target with a wide field shot of everything around it. And I really enjoyed that for quite a while, but I've changed some things up, and currently that FMA 135 is its own separate scope now that I use on the second pier sometimes if I'm not using one of the other four scopes that go out there. This was interesting, but the main reason I stopped doing this was you lose a lot of imaging time in Nina when you have two different scopes running on the same mount because you have to now synchronize all of your dithers. One scope has to wait until the other is finished shooting a frame before it can dither. So you end up, I think I probably lost maybe 20% of the frames I would normally get on an evening just because of the synchronization that's necessary with two scopes running at the same time. It was a beautiful effect. I loved it, got some good images from it, but I decided to take that off and just go back with a single imaging rig on the machine. All of that is run by a Melee Quieter 4C mini computer, which is mounted here on the side. Uh, with the AM5N having a saddle power input and USB, there is actually one cable, this larger braided cable here, that connects to anything on the bottom of the mount, which this currently goes down to a battery that is solar powered that runs the scope. So this whole rig has one cable to go down to the ground. So there's almost zero chance of having any cables catch during the night. The only time I had a problem with it was this cable caught in between the altitude adjustment little knobs. But I've since rectified that with some 3D printed little covers to keep it from accidentally getting inside there. And that was only happening at just the right movement of going across. So again, the only con of this whole setup I've seen was, well, one, the price. Very expensive for all of this, as you can imagine. Maybe not for some of you. You maybe outdone me on some, but this is about a $12,000 rig, I think. The only other con was, like I said, running a dual scope setup, and I've rectified that by just making it a single scope setup. A little bit larger pictures you can see. I've tried my best to keep everything very well cabled, but it is so hard to find the exact length cables that you need. Most of my USBs and powers are within a few inches of being the length you need. The problem is the dew heaters, they typically don't have a way to shorten their cables unless you want to cut the cables and put new ends on them and everything. So a lot of the mesh you see there is dew heater cable right there. I am still using the original ZWO USB cable for the camera, so you see a lot of it doubled up here. But this is a very nice setup. You can, without the third or the second scope up on top, you can pick it up by its handle and carry it around and not have to worry about any cables catching or hitting anything as you're carrying it. And again, like I said, this one braided cable is power. That's all that goes to the ground. So once it stays attached to the rig. So once you disconnect it from the power source at the bottom, which can be a power supply, battery, whatever, it's using Anderson power poles. It connects. Once you disconnect that, loosen the two lock nuts there are locked on the AM5, and it slides out of the saddle, and you can carry it inside for cleaning, which I did just a couple of weeks ago. Um, the second tier gets a combination of one of four scopes. Currently, my main scope that I'm using on it is a SV Bony SV555, which is their version of like a Red Cat. It's a 54 millimeter, 243 focal length, so f4.5. It's mounted on top of a AM3, and it has a 160 millimeter pure extension from ZWO that allows me to quickly take this out and put it on that second pier and just drop it into place and turn three screws. This one I use either with a ASI 294 MC or with a Player One Aries C, which is the 533 base square chip. Has a filter wheel with a few filters in it. The one I mostly use is this Antlia quad band. The quad band gives me very good results in the light pollution that I'm dealing with, which is between Bortle 5, Bortle 6 here in Cleburne. It also allows infrared through when I'm using the 294. So I've gotten some really nice detail on some galaxies with this. With the Player One, it doesn't have as good a response in the long wave IR, so the filter actually works more like a tri-band. They're not letting through all the light down towards the 850 nanometers of IR. This one does not use an off-axis guider. It uses a 30 millimeter scope. You can see here mounted on the side. It has a Player One 462M for its guide camera. And again, a ZWO focuser, has a Wanderer Astro power box on it, so I can control all the inputs or all the outputs, USB and power, turn them on and off. One thing I like about the Wanderer Astro is it has a temperature sensor based dew control. So you run a probe up underneath your dew heater band and you set the temperature you want to keep the lens above ambient, and it will control the dew heater and keep that ambient temperature. Whereas the Pegasus Power Box just has a preset algorithm that raises the temperature based on what the outdoor temperature is and the humidity, but it doesn't have any way of sensing what the actual temperature is of the dew heater. I haven't had any problems with it. It's worked well, but I do like the Wanderer Astro's ability to have feedback on what temperature it's running everything at. Again, this one has its own Melee Quieter 4 mini PC. You can see it mounted right here on the bottom on the top picture. In front of it is the power box that you can see better on the bottom picture there. But all of that is mounted to a Losmandy plate. That Losmandy plate with computer and everything is completely separate from another Losmandy plate that has the telescope on it. So basically, I loosen off one uh, tension screw here. I can take this scope off, slide in one of the other three scopes, and I still have the power box and computer that is still here on the bottom Losmandy plate. So there's basically, I think, three cables that go to this scope from the bottom plate. I put one of my other scopes on there, and those three cables just connect to the camera and the dew heater filter wheel, just like, or the dew heater and the guide scope. The filter wheel is connected through the camera. So this is a interchangeable system where the bottom is the computer, all the electronics, and the top is just whichever scope I decide to use for that particular night of imaging. The pros of this are it's very lightweight, portable. This will be my Rising Star camera and setup, depending on what scope I could put with it. It should be a very portable, nice system to take out there for some wide field, dark skies. Or I could put one of my larger, I have a 72 millimeter scope I can put on top of here and be able to do some more detailed imaging. Again, fairly expensive setup, not too bad breaking the bank, but it definitely is a fun rig to play with, especially when I'm shooting both of them at the same time each night. Um, just a few pictures. These were all taken with one of those cameras and one of those scopes, whether the 135 millimeter or the 243 SV Bony or the 500 millimeter Ascar. So as you can see, even from here in Cleburne with Bortle 6-ish, still get some very good images here. And some of these images, like this mosaic down here at the bottom, was actually taken with a very inexpensive doublet scope before I got the newer scopes. And the 533 based Saturn C camera, which was an uncooled camera. So I'm looking forward to reshooting this in monochrome with a cooled camera this year. So this was all done with a rig and even a mount that was very inexpensive. So this whole thing down here was shot with probably a system that cost less than $3,000.
All right.
So I've ranged everywhere from expensive to inexperienced. Inexpensive. And I am inexperienced. I've only been doing this for a year now, a year and 2 months. So that's
Well,
all I had on the presentation there. The only other thing that I could show, and I've shown it before, is the automation system for my scope hut. It shows pictures of what's going on, battery voltage, whether or not it's charging during the day, the all sky camera. I have this field that shows the live images from all the cameras on each rig each night. So this was the last image that it took each camera last night. I was shooting 101. You can see I was starting to get the house creep into the bottom corner here. So I probably will dial it back a few minutes instead of letting it shoot all the way until astronomical dawn. But I won't go into any details here. I want everybody else to have plenty of time. But if you want more details, we can do another discussion sometime. Be glad to talk to anybody about how to automate and do everything with Home Assistant with an observatory. Thanks, Steve.
fantastic. Thank you so much. That was really impressive, Glenn. And I'm sure there's a lot of people salivating at the different equipment you've got, and you've done all of this in a very short amount of time, and your images are just absolutely fantastic. So thank
Thank
you.
you.
I think I will put you down for that how to automate presentation coming this summer. I'll talk to you about that offline. Okay, let's see. Next up, I think I had, was it Jim McCatherine? Is that correct? Let's see. Don't be an April Fool. Yes, Jim McCatherine. Jim,
Let me share.
go
Let me share
ahead.
a screen here. I think it would be. If I can push the right button. Entire screen. Yeah, let me see.
I just noticed somebody put a comment in there on the chat while I was talking about cable sleeve. That is the exact sleeve material that I used, that woven kind of snakeskin expandable sleeve, and that stuff is great. I've got it on all the cables that run from the scopes to the ground, and that sleeve is great. So if you're not using something like that, definitely try it out. And Jim, they moved it on me too. The last time I used Zoom, it was in a different place. I even had to approve. I had to approve sharing my screen again. I guess Zoom updated.
Yeah, okay. Can you see a white screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Jim.
All right, a white screen. Here we go. This was my equipment starting out, 1975. Edmund Scientific. Some of you will remember that. $14, you could build a 6-inch f8. So I did, and that's what that looked like.
I had a magnifying.
You what?
I had a magnifying glass.
It was surprisingly a good kit, and wound up selling that one to pay tuition when I got to college. But that's where we are now at Rising Star. So we got a C11, and it's tele remote, so I can't just run over there and do things. So generally, it's running at 1955 millimeters. We put a Hyperstar on it if we want to go to f2. With the Hyperstar, we went on 183 MC. There's a Star Zone, a large format reducer, Celestron OAG, which I really don't use much at all and won't use at all now. Filter drawer at Rising Star, no filters. We're shooting one-shot color, no filters. And then until last week, it had an 071 MC Pro on it. I just changed that out to a 2400 Duo. Celestron focus motor. It's got a Celestron smart dew heater controller and a Celestron dew ring on the C11. And then the black scope is a Zenastar 80. ZWO focuser, 290 mm on it. Wanderer Astro carbon fiber flats on both of them. And I really do like those. The carbon fiber flats are just, to me, a whole lot better than the printed plastic things. It's on a CGXL mount where it's been for probably 5 years. And if you look down the counterweight shaft, that first bunch of counterweights is 4 rings. And we throw those things away all the time. So if anybody needs counterweights, tell me, and all we gotta do is cut a hole in them, and they weigh about 8 pounds a piece. So rather than throw them away, we can make them if somebody wants them. It's on a telescope pier, B-Link mini PC, data logger's power switch. Just out of the picture below bottom is an Amcrest IP camera. And running remote, that's pretty much a necessity to be able to see what's going on when things don't work like you think they might be working. And it pans and tilts, and you can pretty much see everything. You can aim it straight up and see clouds and stars and everything else too. It's an Astrohaven clamshell that I wouldn't do again if I had to buy a new one because they're ridiculous. But this one came out of University of North Texas, and the head of the physics department got it. He got too old to climb in and out of it, so I kind of stole it from him. And it was a mess, but it cleaned up, fixed up. The controller is an interactive astronomy roof control, sky roof controller. It's made to control one roof, but I've got it controlling 2. And then on the pier, there's the mini computer. Going remote like this, you really need a data logger power switch. So we connect to the ROSA Rising Star network, give it the URL, this power switch, then we can turn all these things on and off. So you turn on the computer, you turn on the power and various other things, and then you log on to the computer. So that's kind of essential. And if something gets out of whack, you can cycle the power with that power switch. Then at my house, we've got this C8 that we run it pretty much at 2000 all the time. There's a Hyperstar and an F7, but I don't use them very much. 2X focal extender in the rare cases when the seeing will support it. Filter drawer with L-Enhance, which seems to work good in the light pollution. It's running a 183 MC Pro and something I don't think anybody else runs, a Next Image 10, which is a planetary camera with these tiny little 1.6 pixels. Celestron focus motor, the cheapo $50 70 millimeter guide scope. It's running a 178. CEM 70, which I like a lot. And then you just take a laptop computer out, slide the lid off, one cable plugs into the computer that you see there, and turn everything on with a power switch that's hidden right behind the mount there on that far wall, and then go inside and run it through remote desktop. And that's been pretty slick.
What is that made of, that material?
It's all recycled plastic. It's high density polyethylene, like a milk carton.
Hmm. Well, that's brilliant. And it's my understanding you created that yourself.
Yeah, yeah, we're making them. There's kind of a list waiting on me to get them. But there's a little bit of machining goes on in the box, 300-pound drawer slides, and we're getting ready to automate the first one, which will be um, a gate operator with racks on both sides. So those drawer guys are coordinated. They won't twist when you're trying to work one side. They're both going to drive at the same time.
All
And
right.
that's a few weeks away.
All right. Well, Jim, thank you so much for sharing this. Anything else you want to add about your rigs? I mean, it looks really impressive, especially the the dome, quote unquote, the observatory that you created.
I've got first time I went to Rising Star, I was out there in the dark trying to set. I'm kind of, shaky anyway, trying to figure all this stuff out, and that thing scared the crap out of me when it opened.
It is noisy.
What the fuck is that?
It's loud. The control. When I got it, there was a box like double shoebox size that was the controller, and it was a complete rat's nest of relays and wires and just junk. But buried in there amongst all the stuff was a good Skyroof controller. And the guy that had it before me could never get it to run. He had manual push button controls hanging out the bottom of it. And he had AC winches on it. So when you told it to stop, it would overrun the sensor. And then it didn't know where it was. So we threw all that stuff away, put DC winches on it, and then thought for a long time about how to control it with a one roof controller. But the answer was the drum that's on this winch just below in the lower right corner has 3 more turns of webbing on it. So it's a bigger diameter. So this right hand shell closes and opens faster.
Yeah.
And then the left hand shell, it comes up, and when it hits the other shell, that's the closing detection. That's the limit switch there. So it works like a charm. It just took forever to figure out. All we need to do is make one go faster than the other. But I mean, it's a great observatory. They're just incredibly overpriced to buy one new. The control system, it's not. Their control system is not ASCOM compatible, and it's like $5,000. It's just ridiculous. They're in the military contract kind of space. But if you can pick up one used and steal it, it works out really well.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Much appreciated for you sharing that. We're going to hold any questions for the speakers until the end so we can get through a couple of more of these. The next person up will be, I believe it's Chris Ashford. Chris, are you with us in Dallas-Fort Worth, or are you up in Colorado?
No, I came back from Colorado. Ski season's over, and it's the spring racing series at Grapevine Sailing Club. So
I think I saw that on Facebook. That's right.
yes. So let me share my screen. Let's see. What's it going to say? PowerPoint. Maybe I'll just share PowerPoint and see what happens. So let's see what happens when I put this in presentation mode. Do you see it? Come on, go. Tell me whether you see it.
Nice.
No,
Not yet.
No?
No.
Okay. Coming out. I'm going to then go to screen 1 and present that share.
Yay.
there you go.
Okay, but now when I put it in presentation mode, it will go, well, okay. All right,
Okay.
I'll just present it from here. So what I've done is I'm going to present my journey so far, the last, I don't know, how long has it been? Must be year 4 now. So I go to the next slide. Here are my cameras. So I have an ASI 294 MC Pro. This is my first cooled camera. I had taken a few shots with a Canon Rebel T2i, but I very quickly decided that that wasn't the way to go because I was fed up having to remove all the red dots, hot pixels. So, and the Canon banding, and it's like, why don't I just buy something? So I bought this from Jim Potts. And this was a great starter camera. I mean, I've got some great shots which I'll show you later. It's affordable. You can buy it now for $1,000, but you can buy it in second hand, $600-700. Um, the only thing I don't like about it has a limited field of view, and I started taking mosaics, and then I thought, well, why bother? Why don't I just upgrade to a wider field of view camera? And so I bought these two cameras. They are a little bit pricey. One of them my wife bought me, the other one I bought. I can't remember which way around it was. So I've got the full frame ASI 6200 MC Pro. I bought them both so I could have 2 rigs and I could switch them between the rigs and mix and match images from both of them. Sometimes I can image hydrogen alpha with the mono camera and one-shot color with the color camera, and then merge them all together because the sensors are exactly the same format. And the other thing about these 2 cameras, if you're using ASI Air, if you don't want the full frame, if you've got a small target, then you can run them in APS-C mode, which reduces the sensor area down to the same as the 2600. So that's quite handy. What I found with the full frame cameras, they'll really test the quality of your scopes. I've given up trying to fix oblong stars in the corner of my images. And I just rely on blur exterminator. It's the first thing I do when I run through the batch processing for stacking the images, and then I tick the correct only box in blur exterminator and run it on the master. And it fixes all my problems. But generally with these cameras, it's very difficult to avoid oblong. I mean, this camera tilt you have to worry about, and then the scopes themselves, perhaps they're not very well performing at the edge of the field of view, and you get oblong stars. Or it's just a pain in the ass trying to sort out the exact back focus you need. And yeah, I've sort of given up with it. Anyway, the 6200 MC has a fault, but I've given up trying to remonstrate with ZWO. When I'm using the EAF, it always disconnects, and it disconnects when you set the EAF to autofocus by temperature or autofocus by time. It always disconnects, and I've got a way around that. So I've given up arguing with ZWO about it. But it's pretty disappointing for a camera that costs nearly $4,000. All right, so they're my cameras. These are my scopes. I started out with a Williams Optics Zenithstar 61. Again, wonderful scope to start with. It's affordable. I can't think of anything I dislike about it. There it is on the right. The only problem I had was when I went to the full frame camera, those of you who will remember the problems I had these reflections, which was caused by the field flattener. It had a shiny surface in there, and it would reflect, and that reflection would bounce around, and you'd get these loopy reflections in your image. And I had to buy a new field flattener. They changed the design, but they wouldn't accept that their original design was a load of crap. And they just refused point blank to fix it. So I had to buy another field flattener, and that solved the problem. I'm not using this scope right now. And it's interesting when something goes wrong and your scope hits the mount, these the strain wave mounts really have a lot of power in them, and that my AM5 has bent this bracket. This bracket here on my scope is now bent, and the scope points down 15 degrees. And the problem is when you're imaging anything and you do a meridian flip, then the image doesn't follow. And then you have when you integrate the images, you've got your subframes. You have to crop out a ton of the photo because of this 15-degree dip. It's pointing down. So a mental note to self: I'm going to talk to Robert Cargill about going to his shop and seeing if we can straighten that out. Anyway, so I bought that from Dave Cox secondhand, and then I bought from Dave Cox again his Explore Scientific ED127, and that. So I went up from this the Williams Optics is 360 millimeter focal length, and now this one's a focal length of 952, nearly 1,000. So I had a lot of fun with this. It's affordable. Again, it's lightweight. But it has a small image circle. And when I bought the full frame cameras, I realized that the ED127 image circle isn't big enough to accommodate the 43 millimeter diagonal on that sensor. So I wanted to buy something else. So then I splashed out on this ASCAR 130 PHQ. I really love this scope, 1,000 millimeter focal length. Beautiful scope. It's this quintuplet design. You don't have to worry about back focus. It's got a large image circle. The only thing I don't like about it is it's heavy. And I thought I had calculated how much weight I could take on the AM5. And when I got it and loaded it up with this extra wide Losmandy plate that's on it, and these rings which are sort of heavy duty, and the carrying handle, and then all the equipment, it exceeded what the AM5 could handle. So I had to buy another mount. I'll come to the mounts in a minute. This Meade LX85, I bought this for visual work from Bill Hall, and then I realized afterwards Meade designed it for astrophotography, and this is the only reflector I've got for astrophotography. And I love the Newtonian stars. The stars with the cross with the well, it's diffraction from the structure that's holding the secondary mirror. But I like it. I'll show you an image. I got a couple of images from it. But the only problem with it is the focusing tube obscures the image, and you see it in the flat files when I do flats. It's like this huge aberration in the middle of the picture, and it's the light from my light panel going past the focusing tube. So I've toyed with the idea of cutting that focusing tube down, but then I wouldn't be able to use it for visual. So I don't know. I haven't decided what I'm going to do about that. Maybe I could take a focuser out of one of these, the 8-inch Dobbs that keep coming up on eBay for $150. Maybe I'll buy one of those and take the focuser. Anyway, then I bought the Celestron Edge 9.25. I really wanted to try imaging with higher focal lengths, get higher resolution of small field of view DSOs. Like a lot of galaxies, small objects in the lesser known NGC SH2 LD and LBN catalogs. I wanted to have a go at that. I really like the focal length of it, but the things I don't like, it's quite a list. I don't like the huge focus travel from one end to the other. I'm sure they could have made that a little bit less, but I had, on the focuser, I had to increase the step size to the maximum, and it still struggles. If I don't get it manually focused pretty well on a star, it won't autofocus. And then the dew heater, Jim will know about this. It did improve a little bit. I bought the smart controller from Celestron, but it still gets pinched optics if that dew heater switches on. And that is pretty annoying. And then the distorted stars, their blurb says, "Oh yeah, we've got no distortion right to the edge of the field of view." Bullshit. It's rubbish. They're hugely distorted stars at the edge of all my sub-exposures. And then the last thing is f10 is a pretty slow scope when you're used to imaging at f5 or f5.9. So I really wish maybe if I had my time again, I'd look at other options. Skywatch, Aperture, Meade, ShotStar. There's some pretty good scopes out there. But anyway, I've got it now. I'm going to make it work. So, okay. So that's that one. And then the very last one, I was so impressed with the images taken by Jim Potts. He has an ASCAR, I think it's a 200. Forgot what the actual numbers are. But, wide angle shots of the Milky Way or sections of the Milky Way. I really was impressed with that. And I asked my wife to buy it for me for Christmas. So, and this one has, I think it's a sextuplet design. It's again, flexible back focus. ASCAR seems to excel in that. Things I don't like, the dew shield, I think is too short. If you look at the picture here, the lens is right up here, the objective lens, and there's only about an inch from the end of the dew shield to the lens. And the problem is outside in my backyard, I tried imaging in my backyard, and it's hopeless because the neighbor's lights just come straight in the lens. And the other thing is I put a filter, I put an Optolong L-Pro light pollution filter in. Horrible reflections. Like it reflected like 3 or 4 times. You could see the reflections building. And every time it reflected, it got a little bit smaller. So last night I imaged with the mono camera, put that on, and my filter. I got a filter wheel, and I was doing HA imaging, and I'm going to add those to the OSC images I've already got, which I've imaged in Gunnison. But we'll see. We'll see whether the reflections are as bad with the filter wheel. So anyway, they're my scopes and the mounts. I started out with the Celestron AVX. It's a good mount. It came with a Celestron CR6 refractor as a package for visual, but I put the Zenith Star on it, and I got some good images with that. But then when I bought the Explore Scientific, I needed something that would take more like 20 pounds than 15. The AVX capacity is about 15 pounds. So I bought the Celestron CGM2. I bought that second hand from Trevor Bray. And I've got quite a few images of that. So I stopped using the AVX and I used the ED127 or the Zenith Star 61 on that mount. And that has like 20, you could probably load it up to 25 pounds and it would run okay. I hate the hand controller on both these scopes. Oh my gosh, it's really horrible to read in the dark. And I don't like the integrated polar scope. It's totally useless in my opinion. And it's this Celestron CGM2. I mean, it's a bit like the EQ6. It's heavy and it's bulky. It's not really transportable very well. I couldn't pick it up and carry it very far. I have to put it in a little trolley. Unlike the Celestron, the AVX mount, man, I can pick that up and walk with it. So it's definitely transportable. So, okay, and then the strain wave mounts came out, so I bought an AM5. You've seen that on Glenn's thing. What I like about this, especially when I put the Williams Optics scope or the ASCAR FMA 180 on it, I can pick up the whole rig, tripods, mount, scope. I just pick the whole thing up and walk away and put it, out of the weather. I can't think of anything I dislike about this mount. And then because, I go back a slide, because I bought the ASCAR 130 PHQ and I realized, crap, it's too heavy for the AM5. I bought this Ioptron HAE 69B EC iMate. And oh my gosh, getting this up and running was a challenge. Oh my gosh. I like it. It's got the high precision encoders. When you lose a guide star, it just carries on tracking pretty accurately. And they say in their blurb you might not even need guiding with this mount. However, I had lots of problems with it, and the problems really, first of all, their wiring harness had to be replaced. Took a while to troubleshoot, but it would just stop operating in the cold. And I was imaging in Gunnison at maybe, I don't know, something like 10 Fahrenheit, not that cold. 10 Fahrenheit is not that cold. And it would just stop. So that took a while to fix. And then I had a problem with the tri-pier. The tri-pier, this is the pier that's designed. Well, it's not designed for this mount. It was designed before this mount for other heavy ioptron mounts. But the problem with it is these strain wave mounts, they're not balanced. They don't need to be balanced. And what would happen is it would lurch over to one side. I don't have a picture of the mount. I'll show you a picture of the mount, and I'll explain that if somebody's interested. But I had to get Robert to fix it for me. he drilled holes and tapped screws and made it work. He changed the design of the ioptron mount, which in my opinion is to spend $700-800 on not the mount, the tri-pier, and then to have to take it to a machine shop to get it fixed is just it's not good. I've had problems with it this year. I put it out and it stopped working, and I realized it's only spec'd to work down to -20 Celsius, which was -4. And in early January in Gunnison, it was -20. I put it out there and it locked up the gearbox. So and it made this really awful screeching sound. Fortunately, nothing got damaged. And then I bought the one with the saddle mounted computer. It's like, I thought, well, let's see what ioptrons, equivalent to the SIA is like. And super disappointing. And I know I've talked to Peter about this before. He uses ECOS and K-stars. But if you download the version of ECOS K-stars for your computer, it looks great. But the one you see this in the saddle, there's this computer, so Raspberry Pi or maybe an Orange Pi, and it's just unusable, in my opinion. And then lastly, the polar scope. I got the iPolar alignment scope. Man, that thing's hopeless. It will it will align your rig to plus or minus about 3 degrees. Well, absolutely no good for astrophotography. So it's disappointing with that. So, but I've got it working. I do like it now. I future-proofed whatever scope I buy. I doubt very much I'll ever get to 69 pounds, but you never know. And it's very lightweight. Usually I take the scope off and then I can pick up the tripod and the mount and just walk away with it. It's very light. Its weight capacity exceeds far more than what it actually weighs itself, which is pretty amazing. All right. And then so out of everything I've told you, this is sort of how I think about what scope am I going to use, what camera, and what field of view do I need. So here's my list of my options: my scope and the camera, what focal ratio, and then the field of view. And I'm always thinking about field of view and my subframe scale. And I haven't done much imaging with the Edge 9.25 in its f10 configuration. That's 2350 millimeter focal length, and mainly because I'm not sure that I can guide to this accuracy, right? 0.33 arc seconds per pixel. I want to guide to an accuracy of 1 pixel. So that means I've got to see 0.33 or less probably in my PhD guiding metric. And I don't know that I've ever achieved that. I've achieved like 0.4, between 0.4 and 0.5 with the ioptron mount. And that tells me, okay, I'm in the, I can get a very sharp picture if I use the reducer, because the reducer gives me a subframe scale of 0.47. Anyway, I just show you this because it illustrates really how I think about, what combination of equipment I'm going to use for a particular image. So if I just come out of this just for a sec, I think it should finish. Hang on, let's get rid of it. And have a quick look on Astrobin. Oh, and I've got some photos, so let me show you those photos of the rigs. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. This is the Meade LX5 on the AVX mount. You can't really see the AVX mount, but that was at the Eclipse. That's the filter wheel that I'm using. This is seven filter wheel. Here's the ASCAR 130 PHQ on the Ioptron mount. You see how small it is, and you see I put these are toe warmers to keep your ski boots warm. I put them around the saddle to try and stop it from just halting operation and switching off. So that's that one. Here's both rigs. So I typically have in Gunnison, I have both rigs, and these deer, they're funny. They don't walk in through the gate. They hop over the fence and then settle down, and they just totally ignore me. I always use a battery, and this is a 1280 watt hour battery. It will run both rigs for probably 2 nights without being charged. So, and this is a more close-up view. This is the Williams optics with that's can't tell which one it is, but that's one of the 6200 cameras in the AM5. And on this occasion, I'm using a guide scope, but I switched to using OGLs, the off-axis guiders now, and then that gives you a good view. I did test this. I can image down to the horizon at 7 degrees of altitude, and that's that over there where you see the sun is setting. So that's the west over there, and it's pretty much west and north from my house in Gunnison is Borthel 2, because there's nothing out there. If I turn around and look south, then it's probably Borthel 3. And then on Astrobin, very quickly, down here, I've got some early photos like this one. Are you still seeing this?
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the Trifid. And this is the Explore Scientific ED127 with the 294 MC Pro and the Celestron CDM2. I think they're comparable to what I'm doing today. I reprocessed this in PixInsight. So it looks a bit sharper, but you can see that the configurations I had, they work okay. This is Pleiades. Again, this was taken from Gunnison. You could see I had great seeing on this one because you could see all the diffraction spikes on the stars. But this is taken with the Zenith Star 61, the 294, and now the Celestron AVX mount. They're 2-minute exposures. And that 2 minutes is about as much as I'd want to go on that mount. But if you're okay with 2 minutes, then it works fine. And then more recently, the FMA 180 is this shot of, come on. Yeah, the Orion Nebula. This is the Orion's belt. There's M78, M42 and 43, the Flame Nebula, Horsehead Nebula, and Barnard's Loop, some of it. Came out pretty well. And it's f4.5. I do have one image which I took with the Celestron at its native focal length, and that is, where is it? It's this one. This is the fireworks galaxy. Yeah, no reducer listed. So yeah, that's a pretty small. I mean, look at it's so this is calculated by Astrobin, 0.4 degrees per pixel, and it's the field radius is 0.2 degrees. So it's pretty small, but it's soon to come out okay. But 15 hours plus 3 hours, 18 hours total. So you have to image for a long time, F10. And then, what was I going to show you? Oh yeah, this one. This is with the mead. I bought the mead for $400 off Bill Hall, and actually it takes pretty good images. This is the Perseus double cluster. So pretty nice. I was pretty pleased with that. And one of the images I've got, more thumbs up. Oh, I've got 20. This is also taken with that Meade scope. It's the M87. Didn't come out too badly.
That's the Casper Friendly Ghost Nebula.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
Yep. All right. Any questions? Oh, I'm done. Yeah, you can say questions to the end.
Right. Well, Chris, very impressive. Thank you for your frank and direct, honest opinions. Those are the best to have because we've got new people who are just getting into this, and many of us have encountered some of the same frustrations that you have. Many of us have learned that things just weren't what they were represented to be or what we hope them to be. And it's good for the new members to hear that information from us because they might not hear it from, the YouTubers who are hoping to get, product to test and show. It's always questionable whether or not we're getting, the same kind of frank information that we're getting from our own members. So thank you so much.
Okay. All right, I'll stop sharing. There we go.
All right, I'm scheduled to go next. I'm going to try to blow through mine really quick if I can also figure out how to share my screen. Dum. Okay, so let me know if you see a picture of a DSLR on.
Got it.
You got
Get
it? Okay.
Yep.
So this wasn't my first rig, it was my second. I used to have a DSLR camera connected to a William Optics Gran Turismo 81, I believe it was, on the EQ6R Pro. No ASI Air, no PC. I was using a hand controller to go to objects, which connects up to the EQ6R Pro. And I had an intervalometer connected to the camera, which would then take, the 30-second exposures. I eventually did add a guide scope, as you can see at the top, and then I had a laptop. But when I first started out, I didn't even have the guide scope. So I was just using the DSLR, and I was taking very fast exposures at about 30 seconds each because I'm at least back then when I had this rig, we were out here at the lake around a Bortle 4. So I was taking 30-second exposures. Later on, I added a what was it? I had just a very basic PC, and I was using I forgot what the computer program was. I don't think it's around anymore to collect the data. Let's see, my next. This one is a more recent photograph that shows two of my rigs, one on a pier and the other on the AM5. I chose this one because you can see I've got the ES ED127. I've got the Gert Newman light flat thing at the top there to create flats. And at this point, I'm using the ASI Air on both devices. Again, it's the EQ6R Pro, and the AM5 is running the red cap. Okay, so that was that rig. And then this rig is the William Optics Pleiades 111. It's on the EQ6R Pro. I'm using the ASI Air, it should be singular, on a pier. I took this just the other night under the waxing crescent moon just 2 days ago, I think, or yeah, I think it was 2 days ago. And actually, this is right now, this is my favorite rig. I've got two of the ZWO 2600 cameras. One is the MM Pro Mono, and the other is the MC Duo. I don't like the Duo, so the way it tracks for guiding. So I do not use that aspect of it, and I continue to use a mini scope to actually do the guiding for me. I don't, in my opinion, just my opinion, I get better guiding using a separate guide scope and guide camera than I do when I'm using the Duo, which has both the sensor and for taking the images, and the smaller sensor for guiding. I get much better results, but then again, I want my guiding to be in the 0.8 or less range. And I don't get that. I frequently can get 0.4 or 0.5 using just what I've got right here. And I can do 10-minute exposures. In fact, I've done 10-minute exposures last night or 2 nights ago, using this rig. And I have not been able to do that very well at all with the Duo. So I'm just giving you my honest opinion. Maybe you'll get better luck than I have, but I've found I can get better guiding by just shutting that aspect of the Duo off and just using that to take the images. And I'm going to be causing a lot of clouds because I just ordered the PlaneWave CDK 12.5, which is going to be sitting on, I've currently got the EQ8 RHI by Skywatcher. I don't have images of that mount. That mount is getting me around 0.4 guiding with just the standard guide scope. And so I decided to go all in and get the larger PlaneWave instrument to just to take it to the next level. I'll be experimenting with that over time, and I'll let you know what I think of that when it comes in. Okay, that is my presentation. We're going to keep things moving right along here. I'm going to stop the share. And the next person I believe we have is going to be, I think it's George, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, George Lutch, who's going to talk to us about powering our setups.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Let's see if I can share. That should work. All right, so mine is on power. basically, I've run the gambit all the way from 12 volt lead acid batteries hooked to inverters to building my own lithium ion battery packs uh, to now using like a Blue Eddy or a Jackery to actually power it, since it's more efficient than at this price point that they're selling them right now. They're cheap enough that you can get a decent one for a low enough price that it doesn't make a lot of sense to build your own batteries. What you see in front of you right there is something that I built because I like to build things. Uh, and it has all the connections I could possibly need, both input and output, for a battery pack to connect to. It's got a PC built into it, a 30 amp, 12 volt or 13.8 volt power pack. It's got an Anderson power pole power distribution unit that you can see there on the bottom picture with all the fuses attached to it. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but right next to the buck circuit. So basically, what I do is I have a Blue Eddy. It's portable enough that I can use it in my truck if I decide to come out to RSOA, or I decide I want to go on a vacation and use it in my RV. I actually have 4 kilowatts worth of um, power that I can utilize, about 3,000 watts average on the inverter. But again, you don't have to go that extreme. You can do anything from 12 volt batteries and I would recommend lithium ion over the lead acid. You're gonna thank your back, or your back's gonna thank you for that. With straight 12 volt in, and like I said, I use buck circuits with that little silver box to the right of the Anderson power pole power distribution unit. I have 2 of those in that box. One is a 48 volt buck circuit, which will take a 12.8 volt input and turn it into a 48 volt for my software BISC mount, my little mighty. So I don't have to have a power supply separate from everything else for that. And I also have something in there that I have, which is a buck circuit that takes 12 volt and keeps it at a constant 13.8 volt. And the only reason I do that is because with distance on wiring, you're going to get a lowering in the voltage, which is going to affect some equipment, differently from others. I found that my AM5, if I had a somewhat long cable, would actually have issues with power. So I put a little buck circuit in there to keep the voltage at 13.8, and everything is hunky-dory now. Now on this, I use exclusively the Anderson power pole connectors, which you can see in the pretty much every picture that I've got up there, with the exception of the one on the middle left. Those are little red and black connectors. They lock into place. They are quite durable. Just about everybody knows about them, as far as shortwave rigs, astronomy equipment, anything like that. And I'll share a link after I'm done with this and point you to a location where you can actually buy a lot of this stuff at a fairly decent price. But yeah, I have 2 Anderson power poles. Picture on the upper right-hand corner of pictures that are inputs only. So I have one on there that is going to be either a 12 volt input from a battery or a 12 volt input from like a secondary power supply that I carry with me. What else? Yeah, the little the 30 amp power supply that changes 120 into 13.8 volts. You can see my little power strip there inside the box. I use that to run anything from external power supplies for my flat panel to anything that requires an external power supply that I don't feel like running off of the power poles connections. I'll just run 120 volt when I've got a connection. Let's see what else. Most of my USB ports in this little box are also powered. So Anything that I want to run, like an external monitor, you'll see upper left-hand corner there. I have USB and an HDMI connector that goes to a USB powered HDMI 15-inch monitor that I can carry around with me. Doesn't require any kind of special plugs or anything like that. I just plug it into that with USB and HDMI, and it works. So basically, the gist of this is go as good as you can get on the power that you're going to be getting, either through a Bluetti Jackery or 12-volt lithium-ion battery, and then build from there. Go, distribution with the power poles. But the main goal here is to keep the power as consistent and as clean as possible. Hence the buck circuits, and most Bluettis and Jackeries have their own built-in piece that allows for clean power, so you don't have to worry too much about that. If you decide to go with something like you're going to plug it into your car or something like that while it's at an off-site, make sure that you have a good jump start box, because it will draw down on that. Also, you want to make sure that if you're going to use a lower end power piece, that you're going to put fuses between your power supply or your battery and the actual astronomy equipment that you're going to utilize. Otherwise, you're going to have issues with possibly shorting out or frying components within your astronomy gear. And I'm trying to think if there's one other thing that I was going to say. Invest in a good testing unit, little head unit that you can basically have two wands that you can test the power in. I know, like the PowerBox Advance, Ultimate, Mini, all those have a reverse circuit in it, so that if you actually plug it in backwards, it's not going to fry your electronics. But if you don't have that capability, or you don't have that functionality built into anything, and you plug it in backwards, it will cause serious damage to your goods as far as your astronomy equipment. And enjoy it, because you can build all this stuff. You just have to have a little knowledge. YouTube is a great teacher. I find that the more I watch these things on how to build electrical circuits and things like that, the easier it gets. And actually, I kind of enjoy it a little bit more, almost as much as doing the astrophotography portion of it. But that's just me. You can get other people to build it for you. And the site that I'll put a link in the chat actually has a location on there where you can tell them what kind of cable, what kind of lens, how long you want it, and they'll build it for you. And it'll be, professionally done, nice and clean. And I think that's about it. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask.
Well, this is absolutely brilliant, George. As some of you may or may not know, George was a featured speaker a couple years ago, I think on the Astro Imaging channel. I think it was called Pimp My Rig. Was that it, George?
It was either that or it was Astroworld TV.
Astroworld, it was one of those, but
yeah.
I still remember that presentation that you gave, and your rig was just flawless, the way you had the cabling and everything else. I don't know if you've got a picture of that you can show everybody just really quick on what you
possibly
designed there. If you've got it, throw it up there. If not, don't worry about it. But I encourage people to go look that up somewhere at some point. It was a really phenomenal presentation, and we're lucky to have people like George volunteering to show what they can do. And this is just one more amazing example of what our own club members can do. Oh, here it is.
And that's the 165 on the Mighty. Right. And the Mighty has cabling running through the mount, so you don't have to have anything going directly to the imaging rig from down below. It's all going through the mount, power, USB, the whole 9 yards.
And is that an early version of your constructed power unit?
I think that's 2.0. It had some different functions and features in it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, George. I really appreciate your presentation and for going off script a little bit and showing everybody your rig there. Greatly appreciated.
Oh, no worries, sir.
The next person we have is Peter Tijerina, and he's going to talk about his rig, and he says he's got some cautionary tales to tell us, and that's very important. We need to have those also for the new folks who may not have run into a situation where they've had a snapped cable or something like that. So take it away, Peter.
All right, let me see if I can share this. Let's see here. Let's allow. Okay. Are you seeing a
We are.
presentation?
We are.
The old GT71.
All right, very good. Thank you. Okay, so I decided to pare this down to just my two current rigs, but I first got into astrophotography in 1997 when I hooked up a Pentax camera to my Meade LX10 SCT and took pictures of the moon, and I was hooked then from that period on. But these are my two current favorite rigs. So the first one is a William Optics GT71 refractor, and it rides on an Ioptron Gem 45 mount. The William Optics I really like because it was at the time, and I bought this rig about 5 years ago. Put it together. It's gone through different iterations, but I really liked the William Optics scope because it was a smallish refractor with relatively fast f ratio with the field flattener and the focal reducer. It takes down to about 336 millimeters at about f 4.7. The native focal length of the scope is 419 millimeters at f 5.9. But one thing that I really don't like about this scope is the field flattener focal reducer. The William Optics 6A3 flat device is really finicky. It's one of the adjustable ones, and I'll show you. Let's see here. We'll go to this. So this ring here. Are you able to see my mouse?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Okay. So this ring here unscrews, and you can unscrew this rear flange and then tighten this ring against the flange to hold it. So it makes it you can adjust back focus in that manner. Between that and the camera, I've got the standard 55 millimeters that ZWO requires. But the GT71 requires 64.9 millimeters of back focus. So you've got to get this guy dialed in just right, and I've not been able to do it. So, but anyway, this is one incarnation of this rig, and I don't have the Deep Sky Dad flat panel on it in this picture here, but I use the Melee quieter, and I've got some of the older 3Cs that I bought before the 4C came out, and bought that. But I run Ubuntu Linux 2204 on these, and you run K-Stars and Ecos. Along with PhD2, and I've got some other packages like Stellarium and ASTAP and the ASI, the ZWO ASI software suite that so I have a really full-fledged PC that I can just run whatever I want on. Um, I use the William Optics Uniguide 50 millimeter guide scope on it. And this one has the ZWASI 290 mini as the guide camera. And then I've got on this scope, I've got one of the older 12 volt versions of the ZWEAF focuser. And I've got a filter drawer on this one, and it's currently got an Optolong L quad filter in it, and I like that one. It's kind of a good all around filter. Reduces light pollution here in the city, and even when I take it out to RSOA, it takes some fairly nice pictures. Doesn't filter out too much, but doesn't mute out the stars any out there. On this rig, I've got the ASI 183 MC Pro camera. And I like this camera for this one because it's got really small 2.4 micron pixels. So I don't know, photos, it seems to soften the photos a little bit, but it seems to be a good combination with this scope at this focal length. I did try the ASI 2600 on this, and because I could not get the field flattener focal reducer dialed in just right, stars out to the edge were oblong eggs. So I really hated the 2600 on this scope. So I went back to the 183. I do have cables routed through the mount. So I've got an Ethernet, flat Ethernet cable, and then two USB cables, one to control the mount, and then one to provides power to the mini PC. And actually, in this particular picture, so before I got the Melee Quieter 3Cs, I was actually using Raspberry Pis and running the Astroberry distribution. That was it was just brilliant. I really applauded the team that worked on the Astroberry um, um, distribution, because you download a single image, zip it on your um, Raspberry Pi, and you've got K-Stars Ecos, you've got PhD2, and it just all worked. It was really nice. Um, Cost, this one as it sits now, it's probably in the six K range. It's not bad. But this was the first real astrophotography rig that I purchased. Um, let's see, what about the mount? The mount is it's got a 45-pound payload capacity. Um, Through the mount cable management, although it is limited, and getting those cables through the mount was a journey. Um, the mount head weighs about 16 pounds, so it's fairly light for the capacity that it provides. Let's see here. What else to say about this one? That's about it. I still use it, still like it, and it's nice to travel with. The other one that I really like, and this is so far my favorite one, is the William Optics Pleiades 111, and it's sitting on the CEM 70 EC2 Nook mount. And this mount, I just absolutely love. It is rock solid. It guides really well. It has excellent cable management. I'll show you some pictures of the all the ports. It even ports Ethernet in through the back here and up out the other side. So it's really cool. Um, anyway, so the scope, it's the Pleiades 111 astrograph from William Optics. It's a 7-element APO design. So it's got a 111 millimeter triplet objective lens and then a 4-lens flattener that's built in back here. And it's got the WIFD internal focus design, which I really liked about this because you don't you don't have to worry about focuser sag with your heavier image trains. So I've got the ZWOAG-L with an ASI 220 Mini as the guide camera here, and then the electronic filter wheel 5x2 inch filters. And I think I've got a list on the next. Yeah, I'll go to that. Anyway, the scope is 528 millimeters in focal length and is about f4.8. So produces really, really great images. Let's see here. So on the back of it, I've got the 2600 MC Pro. I still haven't made the jump to um, monochrome camera. That's probably going to be in the future at some point. And then the EFW 5x2 inch with Optolong filters. I've got a UVIR, an L Pro, L Enhance, L Extreme, and an L Ultimate. Let's see here. The OAGL with the 220 guide camera. I've got the newer version of the EAF, the 5-volt version on this one. And I've got the Pegasus Mini Power Box with the environmental mini sensors. And really the only thing I use this guy for is to power the dew band, the AstroZap dew band. And then I've got a Mealy Quieter 3C PC sitting between the scope tube and the dovetail bar. And let's see here. So let's see if I can zoom in on these. Do that. No, I don't think I can do it. Okay. So this picture here shows, I've got an Ethernet cable coming into the mount here and comes out over here on the side, and I just plug it into the PC there on that side. It's got a full complement of USB cables. So I've got one USB cable to the mount that controls the mount. The EAF is plugged into, the cable is routed out, underneath the telescope to the USB port on the right side, and then I've got the power cable to the little Pegasus Power Box Mini coming out there. On the back side, I didn't get a picture of that very, very well, but the camera and the PC are powered from the two ports on the back, two power distribution ports on the back. And this one power input provides power to 3, 4, 5 ports over here. Let's see here. Just some closer up shots of the USB ports and the DC out on that side. And then on this side, there's a separate NUC power, which is powered by this input right here. The let's see here. The CEM70 gives you a 70-pound payload capacity, and I love that. Great cable management. Sits on the Ioptron tri-pier, which has its issues. When I first got it, within 2 weeks, I stripped out a screw head on one of the ring clamps that goes around and attaches the legs to the center pier. So that wasn't too fun. But they sent me a new clamp section. Um, Cons: this is really heavy. The Let's see here. The William Optics, kitted out the way it is right at 30 pounds. The mount head, the CEM70 mount head, is 30 pounds. The tri-pier is about 26 pounds. So altogether, that makes for a lot of weight to lug around. But it's a rock solid mount, and I typically get guiding in the zero point 0.3 to 0.4 RMS with using the OAG through the William Optics 111. A couple of pictures. So the one on the left was M42, and it was taken with the GT71. And the Cone Nebula on the right was taken with the William Optics Pleiades 111. And that's about it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Peter. We greatly appreciate your going over those two rigs with us, and the cautionary tale. Could you just take a couple more moments to talk about that, maybe in a little more detail?
Absolutely. So let me share a video from my backyard camera. So over here on the right, you'll see I've got my telescope set up, and I typically put an umbrella, one of the market umbrellas, just over it to shade it from the sun during the day, especially when I'm leaving them out over multiple days. Keeps the scope cool and everything. Well, this particular day, March 17th, it decided to get a little windy, and here we go. Fortunately, very fortunately, it did not hit the scope, but it does, and I'll speed it up a little bit. Right there, you see the scope legs moving. So you get a big gust of wind, and it wants to pull the scope along with it. So cautionary tale.
Yeah,
Don't use market umbrellas to cover your scope. I have since purchased a Telegizmo's telescope cover.
Good for you. Yeah, that would have been not good had that landed in the pool.
No, sir.
I saw that picture. I thought, okay, this is going in the pool.
Yeah, no, I was very, very fortunate. Very fortunate. So, anyhow.
All right. Well, excellent cautionary tale. Thank you so much for sharing that, Peter. And I think that brings us to Bob Circus, who's going to give us he's going to do sort of a combination. We have the club rig, right, out at Rising Star, which is in the Noble Dome. It's the Raza, which is owned by the club, and he's going to talk about that situation and what we need to do to upgrade it, etc. So without further ado, pop your popcorn. Here's Bob Circus.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to try and get through this quickly. We've had just a chocker box full of really good presentations this evening. I don't think I'm going to be up to the quality of everybody else. So, but what I'm going to talk about tonight is the Noble Observatory. I'm going to talk about where we are, where we're going, and just some general plans. So let me try and minimize. First of all, can you all see my screen?
Yes, but I don't think you're using the correct logo. We have a Black Panther on it. I think the Panther's purple.
Well, that's the logo I've got.
Well, okay. All right. Cease and desist. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, okay. All right. So, and this is basically a presentation that I'm going to be giving to the board next week. So we're going to talk about the Noble Observatory here. So this photograph was taken by Jonathan Russell the other day. It's gorgeous. There have been several really good terrestrial images. Peter did one, I think, the night before. Just some outstanding images at Rising Star. So if you think about it, you can do more than I'm sorry, celestial imaging. So anyway, so the Noble Observatory, it's named after our founder, Charlie Mary Noble. We started construction February 17, 2024. And we estimate, if everything moves efficiently, that we will complete construction the weekend of May the 19th. So what is the observatory train, the image train out there? Well, this is a picture of the imaging train as we finished up. What night was that? Saturday night? I can't remember. No, Sunday night. Jim and Peter and I were out working on various projects out there. So the observatory is a Next Dome 2.2 meter dome. It was donated anonymously by a member. The telescope is the Celestron RASA 8 version 2.0. The main imaging camera is a ZWO 183 MC Pro. The guide scope, which you can't see here, is SV Bony 60 millimeter with a ZWO 120 Mini as a guide scope. The focuser is a ZWO EAF. The mount is an Ioptron CEM60 that was donated by another member. It's an awesome mount. The pier is donated by telescopepiers.com. That thing, you don't want to stub your toe on it. It'll hurt. The computer that's on there is a Melee 3C fanless mini computer. I anticipate that might be upgraded in the future. Capture software is going to be Nina, PhD2 for guiding, and SharpCat for live streaming. And we have a weather station. Our weather station is KTX Horizon 22. That's the name of it out on Weather Underground. It is not online, but it is there. Occasionally you see me testing with it, and that's going to be dependent on our weather unit arriving. So we'll talk about remote operating. It can be operated remotely. Right now we can go out there, we can turn things on, and we can look at it. This image here is just a combination of the digital logger controller that Jim talked about earlier. This is what the control screen looks like. This is Nina with all the equipment turned on. And this is the Amcrest camera that he was talking about in his, that we have in this device. So the idea is anybody that wants to get access to the observatory will be able to. You'll need OpenVPN Connect. That configuration will When you sign up, you'll get via Peter T. Arena. You'll need some sort of RDP to be able to remote desktop in to the computer that's there. And it can be, off a tablet, it can be off an iMac or Windows, but some sort of RDP. And you'll need a browser. I know that these three browsers, because I've tested them, work with the configuration that we have out there. So any member is going to be able to schedule time, but there are rules. You'll have to get trained up and certified. And there's going to be scheduling. I think the general thought process right now is that the night before, the night of, and the night after a new moon is strictly going to be for imaging time and any uh, public events. And then we're trying to figure out quite a few things. Scheduling is one of them. The image data, the IP will be owned by the Fort Worth Astronomical Society. All members will have access to raw and finished product. And I think by way of delivery, we're going to go ahead and, at the very least, stack and deliver calibrated masters, and then put them out on a place that's easy to get to. So the next thing that needs to be done, and this is kind of eerie. This image is of the configuration at night. It's taken Sunday night after Peter and I did a lot of cable management. He was very helpful with that, and it's a lot cleaner in there now. But the digital logger has a pretty hefty little, I would say it's maybe a 2-inch display by 1 inch that's very bright. There's no way to turn it off or dim it. So we're going to get some crepe paper and tape it over. And but it kind of looks like an image taken of a nuclear power plant that's been generated. And also we know that we've got the light up here that's from the camera, and we'll cover that up so we can minimize light internally. So what is automation? It's the ability to open and close the dome. That's the shutter. The ability to synchronize dome rotation with the mount, and the ability to close the dome when conditions are unsafe. And that means if it rains, or clouds come in, or it snows, or wind gets too high, if we get a power loss, we want to try and power things down, possibly with lost if we lose network connectivity. The shutter and dome controller are very early versions. Some of you have seen like the gear that comes on the dome rotator. It's very rough. The gear track is kind of roughly hewn, and the way it's installed it lends itself to being problematic. The biggest problem we have is the shutter controller, because the way it charges its battery, in my opinion, and others, I've spoken with other folks about this, is it's not very reliable. And what the shutter controller does, or what it will do, is when it gets to 50% on the battery, it stops wherever it happens to be. And in our environment, when we're 150 miles or more away, that's just not going to work for us. And we also need a weather station so the Noble, I need to update this a little bit, so the Noble can be closed when we get unsafe weather. It's all about protecting our investment. Let's see here, I need a slide down. So, I've got something backwards. Hold on, guys. Okay. Now, there's going to be a cost for the upgrade. This image here was taken a week or two ago, as we were doing our first light image here. So the cost to do this automation is going to be $4,333. We have raised a considerable sum from anonymous donors, $3,500 to be exact. And if you're interested, you always hear this pitch at a meeting, and you always hear it from me. If you're interested in making a tax-deductible contribution, contact me privately, and I'll give you the details so you can talk to Bekinkus. So we do plan, like I said, I'm giving a presentation next week at the board meeting. We will ask the board to approve making up the difference. We have a bucket of funds are allocated to Rising Star. So we'll ask the board to approve the project and approve paying the difference between what's donated and what we need out of those funds. And we'll also ask if the board approves, then we'll ask the membership to approve the project at the next meeting on the 21st. So why do we want to do this? Well, look left. This is a 20-minute image. That's the first light out of the Noble Observatory. We need to assure reliable remote operation. And we expect the observatory to get quite a bit of use with our, maximum time we'll get over a new moon, member schedule time, whether they are imaging or going to live stream. And I kind of envision some folks would just be more interested in doing a remote EAA thing using SharpCat, and then some people doing actual image capture. And we're going to have club only live streaming events, public live streaming events, private live streaming events. Our inaugural private live streaming event is going to be Cook Children's Medical Center, probably over Memorial Day weekend. So this is what's going on. This is why we're going to wind up spending a lot of money. And but I think the value prop is worth it. And it allows us to expand our outreach. It allows us to become an oracle to the sky for anybody, really. And yeah, so that's your Noble Observatory. And that's all I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions, as well as I'm sure there may be questions for the other guys.
Okay. Well,
Thank you.
thank you so much, Bob. I'm very excited to access the Raza. I miss my Raza. I sold it, as some of you know, and I miss it every single day, and I'd love to access that again. Can you remind me, what camera are we connecting to that?
At the moment, it's a 183 MC Pro.
Okay.
And Mr. Jim has got me tickled about getting a 2600 MC Duo that has the advantage of getting rid of a guide camera and a guide scope. And anyway, but that's in the future. I don't know when that might happen, but I'm very interested now because I use OAG on all of my other scopes. So I'm very comfortable with it.
Okay, so one of the things you're going to have to do in order to connect a duo camera to the Raza is you're going to need, I had to have one specially made, is the flange, which sits inside of the little the little screw holder and comes out, and the camera connects onto it.
Yeah.
That the standard flange will not accommodate the size, the area necessary for
Yeah.
both the guide sensor and the camera sensor.
Yeah, because I think it's a 54 millimeter. It's a weird.
That is correct. So
Yeah.
I
So
had a person who is out here in Graham, Texas, make one for me based on my specifications. And we created one using a 3D printer. And then once we got the specifications to where it was right, then we had
yeah.
it actually milled out, with a metal frame. So I had to go out and make that. The only other option is, I mean, there's I want to say it's about $300. I think it's called a photon cage.
Yeah.
That can be used. It's very expensive. It cost me nothing, thanks to friends of friends that I have out in Graham who just did it for me. And it's good to have those kinds of people as opposed to having to buy the $300 or more today photon cage to accommodate that. So that's just something to keep in mind for the future on that project, is that it needs a special adapter.
Yeah. It's going to come after I get the flip flapper.
Good. Now, I will say this, I did find that the guiding with the Duo on the Raza, because it's F2, that was acceptable. I could get good guiding with the Raza and the Duo. But when you're talking, a telescope like the 127,
Yeah.
the Pleiades 111, it's just not, the guiding just isn't acceptable for me personally, because I want that guiding down as low as possible, and it hasn't performed at that level for me. Anyway, sorry, I'm monopolizing this. Any questions for any of the presenters?
One other thing before I give up with Peter's help Sunday night, we wound up getting really crappy polar alignment. We're within 1 second of polar alignment of celestial pole. And Peter's like, well, we can spend a few more minutes to get 0. And I'm like, 6 sigma is accomplished here. And I was messing about, and guiding is about 0.13, between 1.3 and 1.7. So it's going to be a pretty solid device.
Yeah, and so now that you've got that dialed in theory, that should be relatively stable. How often do you think you'll have to make adjustments to that?
I imagine after we do the last bit of hardware, get the shutter and the rotator installed, and everything synced up, we'll probably have to redo the guiding one more time, and then we'll just check it. My hope is no more than once a year. So
excellent. All right. And by the way, it's white. I said purple.
I don't.
I'll send you the correct club approved logo, so that when you make your presentation to the board,
yes,
they'll appreciate
we'll get it squared away. I don't want Sean Paul getting all upset.
All right.
I have a question. What is the significance of the panther? White or black? I don't.
Well, that was long before my time, and we were lucky enough to have somebody in Sean Paul to create or redo it for us. He basically started from scratch because it had been basically the equivalent of a photocopy of a fax of several more generations. So it was really not a very clear logo, and he just took what we had and created a new fresh one for us. So it's got much better resolution, etc. So
I have the answer to the Panther.
The significance of the Panther is way back.
Yeah, it was 100 years ago, I think 8 years back was the 100th year of the Fort Worth Police Department. And the first founding of the Fort Worth Police Department, they had that panther as part of their badge.
Well, the significance of it, there used to be panthers in and around Fort Worth.
Yes, correct. And that's
And
why it was on the badge.
that's there's an area, I can't remember if it's called Panther Island,
Yeah,
but there's an
Panther.
area, yeah, that's what it's named for. And actually, depending how you drive to UNT, you drive by it. It's where the minor league team used to play. So
Well, at the 100th year anniversary for that next year, the police department issued new badges with the panther on top of the badge. But after that year, they discontinued putting it on the badge. So it's only existed on the Fort Worth Police Department's badge at the year it was founded and at the 100th year anniversary.
sounds like a lawyer got to him.
Yeah, well, you know, like I said, he's a detective. That's the only reason I know this stuff. I went to the commemorative where they were issuing the badges and all that stuff.
What year was that, the 100th anniversary, Sam?
Let's see, take 10 years back would be what, 2014?
14?
So 1914 or 1814. It's 100 years from 2014.
Okay. All
So
right.
1914,
1914. Okay.
thereabouts.
Very good. All right. Any other questions?
I've got one other thing that I'd like to share if you've got time. I've been using pop-up tents. So rather than take my rig inside, I just go out there and put a tent over it. And I just thinking about that, I saw Peter's video then. And here I'll share my screen. And let's see, media player, share. And hopefully you should be able to see this. This is a 30-mile-an-hour wind.
Wow.
And I bought one of those right after I was up there with Chris for a week. I came back and the first thing I did was buy one of those.
That's pretty cool, but will it survive 70 or 80 mile per hour winds?
Well, you got,
I don't know.
Just put it up tomorrow, you'll find out.
Yeah, right.
You know, if it was going to be that windy, I'd probably go out there and take it all in. I mean, when Sam came up, I had 3 rigs in the. This is like a corral here for horses, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, we've got 3 rigs running. 3 o'clock in the morning, I hear this thunderstorm. Oh, huge clap of thunder, and so I leg it outside. My AM5 rig, as I've told you, I can pick up the whole thing, including the telescope. So I picked that one up, put it in the shed, and then I got the tents out. And while I was putting the tents out, I got the tents over the 2 rigs, but I hadn't got them pegged down. And then the wind really picked up, and then it started belting down. And I'm there in my PJs, 3 a.m. I'm running around trying to get these things pegged down so they don't fly away. And yeah, everything was kept dry. So yeah,
That's what matters.
Mountain weather. Mountain weather.
So I did arrive there to help after the rain stopped.
Yes. Well, Sam drove over. He was in an RV park just down the road. Drove over, but he was too late.
Hey, one more thing, not related to anything in particular. We were gifted a very sophisticated security system over the weekend that we're going to deploy very quickly. So just as a heads up, there'll be 24/7 CCTV out there now.
Well, that's not a bad thing at all.
No,
I
Have
think
to be on our best behavior then, right, Bob?
we can catch the cattle jumping over the fence like we thought they were going to do.
The deer.
Uh,
Oh
The
man,
trespassing.
the neighbors' cows, the big ones on the east side, they were ambling over. The two dogs went over to chase them away, so they earned their keep.
Yep.
And one of them came back after one of the cows shat on it.
Oh no.
Anyway,
You
yeah,
can't make these things up, right?
no, you can't.
No.
No, you can't. So, but I never envisioned that Rising Star would take the shape that it's in now. I just never. So that's a pretty cool place. If you haven't gone, you need to go. And if you, I tell you what, we'll start a pool. Who can go out there more than 24 times? That's how many times I was out there last year that I know of.
I hope I don't have to go out more than 24 times in 12 years. Unless I want to. That's
Yeah.
different. I don't want to
Yeah.
have to, though.
Yeah.
So I have a question real quick. I've been having problems with something. If somebody here might be able to help. On my SV Bony scope, it's f4.5, 243 millimeters. Whenever I'm using some of which I'm using a 533 camera with 1.25 inch filters. They work great on every scope I have except that scope. When I use my Optilong filters, my flats are reversed. In other words, instead of getting darker at the corners like vignetting, it gets brighter in the corners. Like it's almost the cone is hitting the edge of the filter and maybe the filter's not blackened or something and it's causing it to be brighter on the outside. Has anybody ever seen that? It happens on the L Pro and a couple of other filters, but it only happens on the 1.25 inch filters. If I go to a 2 inch filter, it doesn't happen. So it makes me think it's something about the light hitting the edge of the filter.
Well, I don't
Don't
use.
tell me I'm the only one.
Is it a
Well, if you
mounted
move it
filter or is
permanently
it a
out the Rising
non-mounted?
Star, you won't need any filters for your color camera.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. Yes, I need to get out there.
Now, all of my filters are the 2 inch variety. I don't
Yeah.
have any inch and a
Yeah.
quarter.
In
Well,
my
I made that
filters are
mistake
the
when I
rimless
started early on. Just means I got to spend more and replace them now.
That's what this hobby is all about.
Absolutely. Hmm.
Yeah, mine are all 2 inch as well, so I don't have any experience with those either. I seem to run into every other issue with my filters, from gray hair on them to incorrect back focus, etc. But that one I've not encountered.
Is this and these filters sitting in a filter drawer?
No, they're in a filter wheel. They're
Um,
approximately 6.5 millimeters away from the sensor. They're as far back as I can get them. And if I do the calculations on astronomy tools, the filter size, the minimum filter size it says is like 24 millimeters. And a 1.25 inches is like 28.5 clear aperture. So I thought I was fine.
before I buy a whole new set, what I'd recommend doing is getting if you're an 1.25 inch, get the ones that you mount physically onto the filter wheel without screwing them on. The one
The unmounted, yeah.
yeah. Because
At this point, I'm never going smaller with the sensor, so I might as well just start buying largers. So, I mean, half of my inventory is already 36 millimeter unmounted and 2 inch. So I might as well just give somebody a good deal on the 125s. Might even have a camera that goes with it. So keep an eye out for a flash sale on a filter wheel and 5 filters and a 533 camera.
All right. Okay. Anyone else? Otherwise, it's about 9:17. We went a little bit over, but I think this has been an excellent presentation. I'll have this processed and put onto the AppSig YouTube channel as soon as I can get around to that, hopefully within a week. If you haven't visited our YouTube channel, it is out there. We've got the Frank Merrick video up. We've got the Space Koala video up. We've got the most recent video up where we discussed what were we discussing? I can't remember now. Stacking PixInsight versus stacking versus Astro Pixel processor. And this will be the fourth one. Sorry, my dog is coming over to say hello to everybody. Say hi, Spec. Down you go. All right.
Hey,
Time to
Stephen,
go.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Y'all have a wonderful evening, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
Stephen.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.